Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Into Sports. I'm Evan, your host, joined alongside today by...
The Hard Count, Spencer. Thanks so much for having me.
Yep, HardCount YouTube. Check him out. I join him over there from time to time to do NFL
Yes.
picks. Today we're going to bring our best bets against the spread for Week 15. We're going to each bring up 3 best bets we have against the spread. We're betting the number here, and then also 1 bonus pick each against the spread. So
Yeah.
I'm going to start off my first pick. I'm going to take Green Bay -4 4-point favorites at home against Chicago. Now, Green Bay's field is worth 4 points in Vegas. So you're telling me that Chicago and Green Bay are neutral on even field? And I'm going to tell you no. I don't see that happening at all. Green Bay, what's their weakness? It's going to be the run defense. They have the 26th run defense according to Football Outsiders DVOA. Well, that would be bad. But Chicago, run offense, only 29th. So I don't think Chicago can attack the Green Bay Achilles heel of that football team, which is the run defense. Also, Chicago, 30th in yards per play. That's a key wise guy stat in Vegas there. Yards per play, they've been a little bit better as of late, but still, 30th, not good. Then, I'm going to take Aaron Rodgers at home against Trubisky. That's also what I'm getting in this bet. I'm getting Rodgers at home, and I'm going to bet on him over Trubisky on the road. Chicago, 2-7 against the spread last 9 games. They've been cold against the spread. And they're 4-9 against the year, on the year. Green Bay is 8-5 on the year. They're positive against the spread. They're undervalued by Vegas. And the last 10 games in the season, or not season, but in the rivalry between these two teams, straight up, Green Bay is 8-2 last 10 games against Chicago. Spencer, agree or disagree?
I disagree. For sure, I disagree because so you're talking about Aaron Rodgers versus Mitch Trubisky, which I think is a valid point. Aaron Rodgers, Mitch Trubisky, one of the best quarterbacks in the league, one of arguably the worst. But I think what we're overlooking here is this is not the Aaron Rodgers that we've seen of late. You're talking about them being very good against the spread. Okay, that was earlier in the season. We were much higher on the Packers earlier in the season than we are now. They've really struggled in more than just the run. I know you're talking about the Achilles heel, which the Bears will struggle with because they just haven't been able to run the ball. They've been able to get Tariq Cohen a little bit involved in shorter passing game, but just not, David Montgomery's been fine, but they've just been really struggling to get that going, which is, the Packers have really struggled against, as you said, 26th in the league or something like that. But we were looking at this defense earlier, and we thought it was a very good defense, and they've just kind of fallen off a little bit. But we look at the Bears, who they're just heading opposite directions. And also, that offense is kind of what was saving the defense a little bit. And that's what we looked at the Packers as so dangerous. But there's been a little bit of struggles there recently. We've seen, Aaron Rodgers hasn't been himself. Devontae Adams kind of been struggling a little bit. And so it's been a little bit of a slower recent couple games for the Packers than I think they would have hoped and we would have hoped. And so even though it's in Lambeau, I feel like at this point, even though it's a 4-point field, I feel like it's not that big at this point. And you're telling me Green Bay and Chicago, who's better? Green Bay. But who's hotter? Chicago. So it's not so simple as to say, oh, Green Bay's a better team, and so that means they shouldn't be favored at home. In my opinion, I think they have much more momentum going into this game. It's a division rivalry game, and as you said, 8-2. And I think the Packers will still win this game, but I think that the 4 is not worthy of being a best bet, in my opinion, because I feel like Bears, they've been hanging in games, kept them pretty close the last couple weeks, and I think it's going to happen again because the Packers really just haven't been able to show us the offensive explosiveness that I would like them to have usually in a game like this, where the Bears just are not as explosive offensively, where they could gain their main advantage.
Well, you said Green Bay has been cold recently. They've won 3 of the last 4. You also told me that Aaron Rodgers hasn't been himself. When we look at DVOA, Football Outsiders, key statistic measurable used in Vegas by wise guys. Aaron Rodgers, 6th among quarterbacks. Mitch Trubisky, 27th. And You mentioned the 4-point thing. I go to my power ratings, and this should be 7.5-point spread. I see Green Bay as definitely the better team. Even if you say Chicago has momentum, Green Bay's fundamentally better. They win at quarterback. It's a toss-up at coach. They have the better skill position people on offense.
Of course they do, but those players aren't performing up to expectations.
Like who?
Devontae Adams.
Well, if we're going to go to wide receiver DVOA, okay? This is the wise guy stat here.
Okay, so did the Saints play 2 times as well as the 49ers last weekend?
This is about a whole season here, and we're going to see that there really hasn't been a big drop-off.
So the season is different than game by game?
I mean, what's wrong with Devontae Adams?
He just hasn't been playing up to expectations. You cannot sit here and tell me that the Packers are playing as well as they have been recently. It's a reason. Okay, and you're also telling me that it's 3-1 in the past 4 games. They beat the Panthers, who on a goal line missed with McCaffrey, who was inches from scoring, against the Panthers team that's struggling now, just got obliterated by the 49ers. They won by 5, and quote you earlier, it was almost a loss for the Packers. So it's seemingly like almost 3 losses in those past couple games. So we look at it, Devontae Adams, and you're going to tell me that he isn't struggling. But we look at this against the Giants 2 weeks ago. Worst pass defense in the league, in my opinion.
Yeah, he had 2 touchdowns and 64 yards on 6 receptions.
Okay,
2 touchdowns.
64 yards against the worst
2 touchdowns.
defense in the league.
In football,
Worst
you win
defense
in
in the
points,
league.
not in yards.
Okay, now let's look at the Redskins game. Let's go over there. Packers. All right, Devontae Adams, 4 receptions, 41 yards.
A little bit more of an
Against
Aaron
a
Jones game.
terrible defense.
Yeah, and they had the matchup advantage on the ground. They pounded Aaron Jones all game. They won in a low-scoring battle, but they won the game.
Okay, it was a loss for the Packers, as you stated. They only won by 5.
They won the game. I don't consider a win a loss.
Okay. So,
Yeah, that's right.
as you stated, quote you, that. Okay, so the past 3 games, again, going back to it. Panthers game, won by inches against McCaffrey. Got destroyed by the 49ers.
No. Stop. Okay, they won by 8 against Carolina. McCaffrey
Was
almost
inches
scored,
away from the
didn't
goal
score.
line against a Panthers team that's struggling right now.
Didn't score, but they wouldn't have won the game if he scored. They would have had to make a 2-point conversion to send it to overtime, and Green Bay still would have won. That San Francisco.
Against a Panthers team that's struggling, by the way.
Well, they were good at the time. Kyle Allen was playing some good ball. And San
Good at the
Francisco-
time. Good at the time.
San Francisco game, we know that they just got blown out, just out physicaled in that game. But once again, I only have to lay 4 points, and the 4 points is equivalent to the Packers' home field. So you're telling me these 2 teams are even on neutral field?
Nope,
and I get
I'm not.
Rodgers and
But I'm
Mitchell-
telling you
Mitch
that
Trubisky?
the Bears are a hotter team right now. And the Packers, they're struggling. And you cannot deny that. You cannot try and tell me that this is the same offense, this is the same organization, this is the same team that we were loving earlier in the season. Because they're struggling. Matt LaFleur.
I don't love them any less.
You don't?
No.
Okay. Why not?
Why would I love them any less than at the biggest season? I like them more. I had them going 10-6 at the beginning of the season. Right now they're 10-3. They're on the pace to outperform my expectations. So that's positive.
I don't think their record reflects who they are right now. They're just struggling in a lot of different ways that I don't think are going to be resolved. I don't care that it's at home. I still think the Packers are going to win, but don't give me the 4 points. I think the Bears could win this game also.
Okay, so you disagree with me, Packers. I'll take Green Bay -4. Spencer will disagree. Spencer, your best bet.
Okay, so my best bet, this one is LA Rams -1 at Dallas. And the reason I like this bet, I think, so it's in Dallas, and we are looking at the Rams right now, who have been very good over the past couple weeks, and we are like, maybe this is the awakening of a beast. Last season, we all know what they were. Super Bowl team. Arguably, you were heartbroken, Evan, with that rest call. But but we look at this Cowboys team, and we think, oh, the home field advantage, right? It's the Cowboys Stadium. But Thanksgiving, they lost the Bills. What?
Oh, I was just going to say, Cowboys, we don't really think of their home stadium as a threatening environment. It's only worth 2.5 in Vegas.
Yeah, right now. So that's why I just think that the Rams, because it's in Dallas, and Dallas home field at the moment, it's just not that threatening. They got beaten by the Bills at home, beaten by the Vikings in a very important game. So it's just a little bit shaky there. And the Rams, they're hot. And they know what they need to do to get in the playoffs. And yes, Dallas is in the playoffs as well. But what we look at, the coaching. Okay, Sean McVay, he was very disappointing at the start of the season. But right now, he's doing great things. And he's getting back to what they're good at. The Rams, they like to run the ball. And in the games, I looked at something. And it's quite crazy how getting involved in the run, depending on as your Todd Gurley. Okay, let's look. Seahawks. He had a good game. He got a bunch of carries. It doesn't matter how much of an average he got, but there's finally starting to get back.
So it doesn't matter how efficient he is?
So here, let's look. Todd Gurley, 23 carries for 79 yards, average 3.1 against the Seahawks, right? 28 to 12. 3.4.
3.4?
3.4 yards per carry, right? They won.
I don't like 3.4.
Let's go to the next game. Rams, 34-7, 19 carries, 95 yards, average 5 yards per carry, with Malcolm Brown getting
I like 5. I like 5.
5 yards per carry as well. 30 yards on the ground. That's when they get their identity. They won that game. Now let's go to the Ravens game. What do we see here? We see Todd Gurley getting 6 carries for 22 yards. They got destroyed in that game. Then let's go a couple more games, because it was very striking to me how much the run game really just based around their offense. So then we go into the Bears game where they won. Controlled time of clock. Todd Gurley got 25 carries. Again, he didn't have the great averages. He still had 4 yards per average, but it's nothing great. But
wrong button.
Look at that. They won 17-7. So then just one more game, just for reference, because I think it's very interesting that they're getting back to it. Because in the Steelers game, where it was all very disappointing on that prime time, the Rams had their backs up against the wall. Todd Gurley, he was barely involved, had 11 carries, 73 yards, 6.1 average, but they just weren't getting involved like that.
7.3.
7.3.
73 yards, 10 carries.
Oh, yeah, 7.3. Sorry. But I don't know why I read that wrong. Oh, well. So, but it just goes to show you that game, Gurley, and it's not just Gurley, it's the running game as a whole, because that's where they stem things off of. It's not like Goff is super spectacular at quarterback position. That was kind of revealed when they weren't able to get the ball moving on the ground. Sure, they've gotten some offensive weapons back in the passing game as well, but I think that they're finally realizing how much importance there is to the running game, to their offense. And McVay's smart, and I think they're starting to lose it. They're getting things back together, and I just like them here in this game winning. I think they're going to keep the ball on the ground, keep it just punishing the Cowboys. What do you think?
Slight agreement here. Rams -1. My power rating suggests to pick them, but we've seen the Rams coming in with momentum. Dallas, like I said earlier on your pod on the HardCount YouTube, Dallas doesn't need to win this game. It's going to all come down to the game at Philadelphia to make the playoffs or not. The Rams need this game. They need to keep pace with the Vikings. So this is an absolute must-win if they want to make the playoffs. If they even want to have a chance. And I see your point about them establishing the run, about the carries, kind of grinding out the defense. And with McVay, most of their offense stems off, the running back stretch, and then they run play action, and then they run a jet sweep to Robert Woods. So if they can get that ground game going, that's how their offense opens up, and that's how they're able to attack defenses.
Yep.
So agreement here, and Dallas, they've been reeling the last few weeks.
Yeah, and going back to the importance of the game right now, if the Rams do lose this game, their playoff chances are all the way down to 16%, which you just don't want to be in that situation. If they win, they're all the way up to 52%. A lot bigger implication here, because I think the Cowboys' chances only vary by about 5%, depending on if they win or lose the game. So, yeah.
I get the more desperate team, the better team, and the team that is coming in
with the hot hand.
Hot hand, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. My next best bet. So let's recap so far. I'm going to take Green Bay -4.
Which I disagree with.
And you're going to take Rams. You're going to take Rams -1. I'm also going to go with. Let's find it here. Okay. Don't know where my thing is. Okay.
Is it Jacksonville at Oakland?
Jacksonville at Oakland. Oakland -6. I'm going to take them to cover the spread and win 30-21. I talk about motivation at this point of year. It's week 15. Teams either are playing for playoffs or their coach is about to get fired and they have nothing at stake. Now you may say, well, what does Oakland have at stake? Well, last game in the Oakland Coliseum, and that's big. I don't know. It's not called the Coliseum. Last home game in Oakland, and this is a fan base that's been very connected with the team, the city, and for this to be their last one, the black hole is going to be fired up. Just a lot of motivation, even for a team that's not going to be in the playoff picture in Jacksonville. They've bailed on Doug Marrone. I mean, you see it. There's no effort being put forth on the football field.
Yeah.
And Oakland, 7-3 against the spread last 10 games at home.
Yep.
And Jacksonville, like I said, them giving up. They've been outscored by 117 points the last 5 games, which is 23.4 a game. And I only have to lay 6.5. Sign me up.
Yep.
And my other point, matchup here, favorable to Oakland. Josh Jacobs probably going to be back. If not, DeAndre Washington will be fine on the ground. And Jacobs is a top 5 running back for me. He's going to be against the number 31 ranked rush defense in terms of DVOA. So that's a very favorable matchup for Jacobs to get it going on the ground, coming off the shoulder injury. And Derek Carr, a lot of people don't like him, but 59.5 quarterback rating, which is slightly above average. So he hasn't been bad on the season. I like Oakland -6.5 to win 30-21.
I'm going to give you a big agreement. This is also one of my best bets on the week. I really like this pick, similar to you. Just because, again, just going back to the black hole, I think that a lot of fans are going to come here, dedicated, longtime fans. They're going to be out there supporting their team. And I think it's going to be just an emotional game for everyone there. And I don't think Jacksonville is the team that's going to take away from that. So I look at that, and I think it's going to be a big performance. Jacksonville, as you said, just nothing to play for. You have them lowest in your spread rankings.
Yep, power ratings, I have them the worst team in the league.
Yep, which is saying something. And it's really true over these past couple of weeks. As you said, 23.5 every game. It's just like they go out there, and it's pathetic what they're doing because they just show no energy whatsoever. And Gardner Minshew, I thought it may have given him a spark, but it really didn't. It's just a flat football team right now in Oakland. They have something to play for, something to prove, something to just look forward to, and that's why I think they're going to win.
And also Jacksonville minus their number 1 receiver, DJ Chark.
Yep.
A field stretcher. He's got a thing that could have torn up Oakland, but he'll probably be out. All right, Spencer, your next best bet.
My next best bet, my third and final one of the week, is Seattle -6 at Carolina. And I fully believe this because Seattle, I look at these two teams, and you look at Carolina, just fired Ron Rivera 2 weeks ago, and we look at how that turned out last week. They got blown out by a Atlanta Falcons team that hasn't been so great, 40-20. And I know we talk about this a lot, but it's just a team that it doesn't have much to play for. They're eliminated from the playoffs. They don't know where they're going forward. They have a quarterback, Kyle Allen, who we don't even know what's going to be happening. And I just don't think they have a leader. They don't have anything to go out there and play for. And I know we're emphasizing that, but it really is something. Seattle, just look, they got kind of embarrassed by the Rams, right? They're going to come out this week. They have a lot to play for. The playoffs, there's so much in that NFC playoff picture that can go down because they can still get that top spot from San Francisco. So they need this win. They really do. That'll all come down to keep them in the race. If they can beat 49ers, is it next week or the week after?
It's week 17.
Week 17, which will be a huge game. They're going to do it. So they're going to come out firing because I think people are starting to doubt them as a real contender because of, we've seen some of their issues show up in these last couple of weeks. Wilson hasn't been as spectacular, and I think that team is so reliant on Russell Wilson that when it isn't all perfect like that with Russell Wilson, then it kind of falls apart. The defense wasn't impressive at all, and I just was not happy with what I saw last week. But I think this week is the week they get back because they know that if they want to stay competitive, they have to win this game. And 6 points, give me it all day.
Yep, a motivated team that needs a W. I'm going to give you agreement on Seattle. This is actually another one of my best bets. This is why we're doing a bonus pick each. Because a little bit too much agreement for my comfort.
Yeah.
But Seattle really needs this win. They really want home field advantage over San Francisco. They don't want to have to play in Wild Card Weekend. And Carolina, they lost 40-20 against Atlanta.
Yeah, you can't do that. This is
Last
terrible.
week, we just saw lack of effort, lack of talent, and a team that's bailed with Ron Rivera now out. All right, I'm going to go to my bonus pick.
What is that?
And I'm going to surprise you here, maybe. I'm going to take Washington plus 4.5 at home against Philadelphia. The over-under is 39. So when there's a lower over-under, that puts more emphasis on the points. Each point's more valuable if there's less of them scored. So that 4.5 is going to feel like a bigger number. Washington is going to want to run the ball and drain the clock with Adrian Peterson. I understand it's going to be a tough matchup against Philadelphia on the ground, but that's what they're going to do.
That's
Washington,
what they like to do. And
that's what they're going to do. They just run it no matter what. Washington 5-2 against the spread in the last 7 games. They've kind of been undervalued with their interim coach Bill Callahan, and Philadelphia 4-9 against the spread this year. They have not lived up to expectations. And then we look, like I said on the Pick'em podcast, Philadelphia, I used to buy into the backs against the wall, we're going to perform now narrative. But after watching the past few games, especially the Giants game on Monday night, I no longer believe in that narrative. Philadelphia was flat and uninspiring for the first half of that game in primetime. Too many injuries to skill position players. Carson Wentz at the end of the game, his number one receiver was Greg Ward, who played quarterback at Houston.
Or J.J. Arcega-Whiteside.
Yeah, and he even limped off the field at a point. So Alshon Jeffrey on IR. Aguilar, we'll see if he comes back. And Jordan Howard, we'll also see if he comes back. So I like Washington to cover, but I like Philadelphia to win the game 2017. Give me 4.5 in Washington.
I am going to give you a slight disagreement. Ooh. And it's not like a big one, but I think I can see your point here, low-scoring game. But, and this is a little bit of blind faith from me, but I very much expect things with Philadelphia. Again, backs up against the wall, and that narrative has kind of been a little bit slowed down recently. But I think now is Carson Wentz's time to really show he's Philly's quarterback. People have been doubting him. You know, Dak Prescott has been the story of the NFC.
Well, I mean, my rebuttal is, wow, hasn't he done that the last few weeks?
It's so basically, I know it has been bad for them over these past couple weeks, but I just think that right now they play the Redskins and it's really in his hands. Before, it was in his hands, but now it is truly up to them. If they win out, then it doesn't matter what anyone else does. Then they will win the division. So I think now he's going to finally start putting things together. Obviously, he doesn't have those pieces, but I think you agree that Philadelphia is going to win, though, right?
Yeah, by 3. Barely, though. Washington covers by 1.5.
We did see Washington have a good game last week against...
They covered the big spread in Lambeau against Rodgers and the Packers, who I picked earlier.
Yes, they did. But I really like... I just think that the Eagles are a better team, and they have, again, just back to that, like, more to play for. They have to get this win in order to stay in playoff contention. And I think this is going to be the week. And they struggled last week against the Giants. I expect them to come back out and ready to play because we're starting to put them closer to the bottom. And they're going to want to show Dallas that, you know, they're not just going to be a team that can be messed around with. So I know it's a little bit of blind faith for me, but I'm going to disagree there. I can see your point, but yeah. So my extra best bet.
Yep, your bonus pick?
My bonus pick is New England. -10 at Cincinnati. I think this one I would have liked it more if it was at 9.5, but I'll still take the 10 points because we're going with a team here, New England. So not just any team. They're coming off 2 losses, and you thought, I mentioned this in our podcast, you thought that one would be enough for them to kick things back into gear. But now 2 losses. How often do the Patriots lose 2 losses? Or lose 2 games in a row? Not very often. Now, they come out here and they play a team that is Cincinnati, 1-12. There's no better opportunity to come out here and show people that you're still the Patriots, you know? And I think that it's going to be a big game for the defense especially. Andy Dalton's back, which does help the Bengals a little bit in terms of points scored, but I have the game win being 27-13. New England wins it. And I think it's going to be a cover. I think it's going to be 2 touchdowns. Obviously, we've seen some offensive struggles, but this is the week I think they put it together.
Very slight agreement here. I like it a lot more at 9.5, considering that I have New England winning by only 10. So if you can find that number at 9.5, then I'm a little bit more in. Now, we talk about a team that's going to lay 7 or more on the road, New England. They're going to lay 10 in this game at Cincinnati. Those teams laying 7 or more on the road, 60% against the spread in the last 5 years. Now, Brady, like I mentioned, 4 games in a row under 40 quarterback rating. That is subpar. But the other thing that concerns me with New England, I'm still in on them, but you mentioned losing 2 in a row. Why isn't losing 1 enough to motivate them? Because if they lose 1 and then they come back, I'm like, okay, they just had an off game, then they were motivated back. But they already had the motivation last week, so now I wonder, can they really be as good as we thought they could be? But the reason I do think they can cover the spread is because Bill Belichick versus Zach Taylor, one of the biggest coaching discrepancies we've seen this season. So I like New England, very slight lean at 10.5.
10.
I mean, 10.
Yeah.
Not at 10.5. Then I'd probably be at disagreement.
Yeah. I don't know if I would take them at 10.5 either. I think it's a little bit out of even though I'm taking them at 14, the 10 points isn't safe. So, I just, again, you asked the question, why isn't 2 enough? But I think you look at Bill Belichick, and it's a different animal when you look at the Patriots and Bill Belichick. And I know most teams, 2 games, but it seems a different story with the Patriots. They don't lose games like this. So when they come back, I know, it's 2 games, losses, but I think they're finally just going to get back to things as normal.
All right, so just to recap, I like Green Bay -4, Oakland -6.5, Seattle -6 at Carolina, and I'm going to take 4.5 in Washington against Philly at home. Normally I like underdogs, but this week I'm going to take 3 favorites as my main 3 picks and then a bonus pick of Washington. Spencer, recap yours.
All right, so my picks for this week were Rams -1 at Dallas, Jacksonville at Oakland, who -6, Seattle -6 at Carolina. And then my bonus pick was New England -10 at Cincinnati.
Yeah, so that's going to wrap it up for us in the best bets.
Yes.
Go ahead and check out, we did a NFL Pick'em where we just pick all the games. We give you a score. We break it down. Just a fun time over there at the HardCount YouTube channel. I'll link it in the description probably, unless I forget, which is probably going to happen. But anyway, I'm your 7.
I'm Spencer. Thank you so much for having me.
And we're out. Peace.